Hey everyone, today I got a returning guest today. His name is Frank Dimatteo. He was a part of Joey Gallo's crew, which was a crew in the Colombo crime family. Today we're going to talk about Frank's new book that he wrote about Carmine Galante. Carmine was a capo in the Bonanno crime family that wanted to become the boss of the Bonanno crime family. Frank got to meet him twice at a few sit-downs with the Gallo crew. Carmine was Joe Bonanno's underboss at one time. Carmine was a known major drug dealer and a very violent man. Carmine wanted to be the boss of the Bonanno crime family at any cost, which started an internal war in the Bonanno crime family. Ultimately, Carmine was murdered because of this. It was all over the news. He had a cigar in his mouth when they had shot him and killed him. There's a very famous picture about that. Mafia boss dies with a cigar in his mouth. Frank covers this all in his book. It's a very excellent read. I really enjoyed it, and I'd recommend it to anybody that enjoys this interview. I'll be sure to put his book in the video description below. Also, please subscribe to my channel if you want more interviews like this. And without further ado, let's get into Frank's story about Carmine Galante. Hey Frank, how you doing, man?
Good. Yourself?
Good, man. Thank you for coming back on my show. This is probably about like the 5th or 6th time now.
Listen, as long as it works.
Yeah, I mean, we've done quite a few interesting segments with you, and the most interesting, I think, for a lot of people that got a lot of views with you was with you and Larry Mazza. I titled it "Informant versus Not Informant," and
Yeah.
people loved it, man. So I'm glad you make your appearances with me. Quite frankly,
No problem, man. No problem.
Yeah, well, today we're going to talk about Frank's new book that he just came out with called it's about Carmine Galante, and we're going to talk about all about Carmine's early life, what he got in trouble with, what he went to prison for, and just about how he got out of prison after a while and eventually worked his way up to becoming the boss of the Bonanno family and eventually being taken out. And on top of that, Frank had an encounter with Carmine that makes it all interesting. 2 encounters, actually. So I think the way we could start this, Frank, is we could talk about Carmine's early life, and from what you understand and what you know and recall that you wrote about in the book, what was his upbringing like?
Well, Carmine was in trouble since a young boy up in Italy. When he came over, he'd come from the Castellamare area in Sicily. And when he came over, Joe Bonanno's here already. So when you come over, you hook up with your people, So he went right into, under the wing of Joe Bonanno. So when he came into New York, he went right into, being a street little punk, doing little things as kids do, and worked up the ladder. But he went right under Bonanno. Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, he came over here from Castellamare. He's what you said, and then eventually, I know he went to school for a little bit, dropped out, like you said, he got in trouble, just little petty shit, shoplifting and fights, and I mean, he was did he ever commit any murders when he was young, or allegedly? You know what I mean? I think
no, not very young. I mean, by 20, by 20, he was already, he killed a couple of guys, and
one of them was named De Castelli. Do you recall that one?
Yeah.
Carmine's first kill was named De Castelli.
Don't give me with names right now, but yes.
Yeah, no.
So many names in his head, I can't remember, and I got time to look up. But yeah, his first, it was I think that's what it was. I think he was 20 or something like that. He was, he wasn't 10, 11, 12, 13 like that, He was doing young kid things when he was a kid, like the rest of them do, the stick ups and, robbing and, shaking down people. But he went to jail young. He went to reform school, came back out, he was always in trouble, Carmine.
Yeah, and he
that was Carmine. He was a hood, nothing else other than that. He wasn't going to be anything else because he didn't know anything else. So he took right under Bonanno and grew up the ladder under Bonanno. Became his underboss eventually, but he did a lot of work for Bonanno, a lot of stick ups. He shot that cop in a stick up because he stopped to get beer. Out of the truck because he wasn't too bright, and he wound up doing a bid on that. He wanted to shoot a girl by accident, then little kid. Uh,
Yeah, she got shot 5 times. I think it was when there was like a shootout going on. I
yeah,
don't
it
know
was,
if
and in those days it happened often, because everybody's wild and shooting, and nobody knows how to run away. Everybody stops and looks instead of running. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean,
He went away for that again. He was in and out of jail, and then he got close, really close with Bonanno, and they started to did a lot of favors. 20 to 30, 21, 22, 23, when that Bonanno's making moves, and he did a lot of work then.
yeah,
Killings then. That's what he did. Carmine was a real old school, gangster. He lived it. 24 hours a day. So it's not someone that just want to do this on the side. I mean, this is what this guy did.
yeah. And he diagnosed with anything like that? They said like I think it was like a psychopathic
Yeah, they
personality.
said he was schizophrenic. He had an IQ of 80. All these guys are schizos. I mean,
Yeah, they
but
said
they said he had IQ of 80, but those guys were dumber than he was. I wouldn't trust those tests. And then
right.
and he was always very evasive, didn't speak much. So, they could have took it that way. He could have been just not answering anything or participating in their test because he didn't with the law, he didn't cooperate at all. So, I mean, I wouldn't believe that test as this guy being with an IQ of 80.
Yeah,
But
they said it
it
was
was
like
said, and I wrote it because it's part of history. But I personally think it's all bullshit.
no, I can recall times too when I was a kid and didn't really give a crap about taking tests and stuff. So they they place you lower and say, "Oh my
Sure.
God, this is
And
horrible."
he's in
But
jail. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And he's in jail, and those guys weren't bright either. Trust me. You know,
right.
the
So
Keystone. I called them Keystone Cops those days. So yeah.
so okay, so he worked his way up to being close with Joe Bonanno, and when he became close, what do you think there was, or what had happened that made him be Joe Bonanno's underboss instead of everyone else at the time?
Because he did a lot of work for Joe, and he worked his way up. And come from the same town in Sicily. You know what I mean? And then uh, he did a lot of work. He worked his way up to
Mhm.
where he to be underboss. He was trustworthy. He was loyal. You know what I mean? He did all the work he's supposed to do. Bonanno was appreciative, and he moved up the ladder. That's how it works with all of them. That's just how it works.
Yeah,
Uh, they were very close. Don't forget, he came from the same town uh, in Italy, so that means
yeah.
a lot. And don't forget, he was under Joe for since he's young,
Mhm. Yeah.
Bonanno. So
So
it
they're
means
pretty close. And then when they would eventually go and do meetings and different stuff like that with in Sicily or Italy, whatever it would have been, where they would set up drug distribution, Joe Bonanno, Carmine Galante was there present with him.
yeah, he was very instrumental going back and forth to Sicily to open up that line. Don't forget, these guys also singing. He spoke Italian fluently,
Mhm.
and they had the connections. They come from that region. Uh, they had a lot of stronghold. I still have a family, relatives in Sicily there, so it was easy to put that connection together. And Joe Bonanno used to go back and forth, but Carmine was the guy handling everything at the time.
So he would be the one actually
He
going
was
and
setting it up. Yeah, he was
setting it up.
setting with the guys in Italy, in Sicily, who actually had the access to the stuff, to the heroin, and he would set it all up with them with prices, distributing, how to get it over. That was I mean, for a stupid guy, he put together a pretty good, put a
How
pretty
did,
good train line together. So, yeah, he was very instrumental in that,
did
all,
it
all through his life.
Did it ever come out how they did end up distributing it to the United States?
Well, they did many ways. They put them in. They put them in tomato cans. They put it in a lot of Italian imports.
Mhm.
Mostly, with all was Italian imports. Mostly tomatoes. To put them in the tomato cans. They used to put them in everything like that. They can get it over with. That was basically true food distributing. Was their main way of getting it over.
And then after that, they'd go get it. They'd have someone get it, and then
Exactly.
I mean, you
Don't
don't
forget,
really.
it wasn't always to the United States. Sometimes it came through Canada.
Mhm.
So it was a route. They made different routes, different ways. It always wasn't always the same exact method of getting it over. They were being evasive too. They were thinking, you
Mhm.
know. So they had that change through Canada. So uh, they moved a lot of stuff over, man. They were big.
Yeah, and with Italian mobsters and Sicilian mobsters, you just really see you don't see them on the streets dealing gram by gram. It's always seems to be a big amount, a bulk. They're like the distributor, and then it goes to the lower level, and then people start distributing it.
Exactly. They were just the importers. Then it went
Mhm.
to, down the road, as far as, from Sicily, he made the connection wherever they got it, through Sicily, to New York or to Canada, to the United States. But it would come in, it would be somewhere, and then they had, someone in the cruise that had guys lined up that were junk dealers and had connections, and then it would distribute that anyway, like it is today. I mean, we don't handle nothing. It goes to one hand to another. You could put a deal together and never ever see anything. And that this guy wasn't Carmen wasn't carrying coke in a little foil in his pocket, man. It
Hell
wasn't.
no.
So it was put together. It was smart. It was huge, and it was set up, all over the place. Through Canada, all through the United States, and they hooked up restaurant, pizzerias. They had a big networking going on. You know,
Right. And so he would eventually form more relationships. And another relationship he formed was with another boss that was actually was I think I'm pretty sure he was convicted of drugs. Vito Genovese. They had a pretty good relationship as well. And
yes.
what where was that connection made? And I mean, did they just do sell drugs together? Did they? I think they would pass off hits to each other or something. Or
Well, they came up young through the streets.
Mhm.
Vito and Bonanno and Costello, all these guys, all those famous names, from that era. These guys all came up together. So, you know, Vito stood with Luciano. Carmine went with Bonanno. Uh, they were friends. You have connection. When you have connections and you need connections, even though they're different families or different, and I don't think. Vito Genovese at the time, I think, was with Lucky at the time. He wasn't.
Mhm.
There was no Genovese family, so
Oh, okay.
he was with Lucky. So that Luciano family. So they were all hooked up together. So everyone has different outlets. Vito, dealt in junk too. So he had his guys in the country that would move the stuff. Don't forget, they moved a lot of stuff. It's not like like an ounce. They were moving big amounts. So it's huge infrastructure, and you use guys that have connections because you can't deal with everybody. You don't have connections with every street junk dealer or a distributor. So other guys have them, so you all have to deal with each other, and that's what happens, and that's why you all earned and made money.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense that they would form all these relationships and have close ties with everyone, even if whatever family they were a part of or later would become. I mean, that even just made their relationship even more stronger.
So,
But with I know the era that they were around, were they involved with the Castellamarese War or anything like that in the 1930s with Joe Masseria and Salvatore Maranzano? Were they around for that time?
Well, prior to 31, and everybody was indirectly with those guys. So,
Mm,
you know,
so they were.
sure, they all worked under a capo of those guys. You know what I mean? So, before they made Bonanno a boss, he was with what I think Masseria. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, those were the guys at the time. Those two guys were the two kingpins at the time, and everyone that we talk about now, famous guys, will all came up through them.
Huh, damn.
So
Yeah.
everyone that we can actually think of came up through them that came from the old days. Uh, so until they got whacked and Lucky took over. But don't forget these guys. Carmine knew all these guys. These old guys grew up together. All those famous guys grew up together. Under either one of those two guys, Mazzarillo, Manzano. So it's like you go to school and you hang out with your buddies. That's how some people think it's different, but it's not. It's a you're all from the Mulberry Street, or you're all from the Bronx. You all deal with each other. You all got these connections, and you just grow that way, and that's why they all wanted to be together, doing all these things together, because together.
And that doesn't make sense because you think about it, and that's how relationships are formed, and you trust the people that you're around, and when you come up, and that's how you form these big drug operations and stuff, I suppose. But was he ever connected with Lucky then, Lucky Luciano, Carmine, and him? Did they have a relationship? I'm sure.
Sure, they all cross paths, definitely, definitely. Yeah, they all cross paths. It's a you know, eh, you know, like I said, everything in the turn of the century coming out, 25 up, let's say, 20 up, they all dealt with each other. They all came out of the same streets, of Manhattan, and they all were, street hoods that had to feed themselves, and they come from Italy. Most of them don't even speak English. They go to our school system. They didn't survive in this system because there was no outlet or no help for them. So I mean, they would try their best, and the Italians in the turn of the century weren't treated well. So people don't talk about it much, but we were treated bad, very bad. So there was no opportunities. The Irish and the English were running this country, and
Hmm.
they didn't particularly care for us too much. So, and so there was no advancements, no nothing. So these guys had to go in the street and eat. Other guys, other people that with different frame of minds would become doctors and lawyers and like that. Whoever could. It wasn't big opportunities those days. But the easiest thing was go in the street and be all of them, and that's why most of these guys did that. And then they liked it, and then it was easier. Then they made money, and then then it becomes you did it for because you want to eat. Then you become mentally unstable because of all the money and power and stuff like that, and then it just grows on you, and and that's how these guys would grow into who they became from being in the street together. They were all very close to age. I mean, Carmine was probably a lot younger because he came in later.
Right.
But those would be the mentors, Bonanno, Luciano, Costello, Genovese. So he went right into the belly of the beast.
So we talked about their drug distribution, how they made their money. How else did they make their money? Obviously, he probably wasn't really around for bootlegging in the 1920s.
He wasn't
S-
involved with that
so
yet.
gambling, maybe.
He was a big junk.
Bookmaking.
Carmine was a big junk dealer. He made most of his money on junk, but he
Mhm.
had restaurants. What I mean, he had pizzerias. His crew ran numbers. His crew did bookmaking. Had a crew with him. They did a lot of things. Junk was one of them, but they did all the devices that were to be done. Every day because they're from Bushwick. There, somebody had to take care of the numbers and the bookmaking and everything. So they did everything else that was normally done in those days. His forte was the junk. He had the connection for the junk. That's why he was strong in that. So they earned every way the gangsters earned, just like any other crew or family.
Yeah, well, that's true. So eventually, Carmine goes on, and he's with Joe Bonanno, making a name for themselves, and they're doing their drug operations. And I think eventually he did get in trouble. There was some trouble in Canada, Montreal, with Carmine when he went there. He got into some trouble there.
Yeah, he got deported from they opened up a restaurant out there that he was earning, and he got deported from there. You know, most of his trouble was in the States. He got pinched for that shooting that publisher. He did a
Oh,
bit on that. What's it, Tusco, whatever his name was. That Mussolini wanted dead.
yes, we
So
should. Yeah, we should talk about those
yeah,
too. Because,
yeah.
but
So he was in trouble for that.
mm,
He had a headache with that upstate. He was driving upstate and got that ticket. That was a big headache for him. Went under the radar. But he was 24-hour surveillance with the law. The law had him under their wing, under their eye. So he always had a headache. What I mean, a lot of things were small too, but it was just consistent and a pain in the ass.
right.
It was hard for him to move around. I mean, he did a good job of it, but it was very hard. He was under the radar.
So yeah, so I suppose before he even got there, there was already so much heat from the United States because he was involved with the reporter getting he did he how did he kill him? It wasn't did when he did that Carmine with that reporter. What was the situation with that?
Well, Vito, it was asked from Mussolini to get rid of him because he was an anti-fascist,
Hmm.
talking bad about Mussolini. Uh, Vito got friendly with Mussolini, and he wanted him dead. And he gave the hit to Carmine. Carmine got him coming out of the office and shot him 4 or 5 times and killed him in the street,
Yeah.
and kept on going.
So was he ever convicted of it then? I can't
No,
recall.
no, he didn't get convicted for that. I got picked up, you know, but no conviction.
Yeah, because it was dark and I
Yeah,
think it was really
with
not dark
the
in 19.
car, with the plates, with in and out. But those days you get away with a lot of stuff. If you have money,
Oh
you're
yeah.
strong because you got the DA, you got the judges, you got So if you were strong and the evidence was weak, you walking,
Yeah.
you walking.
So what was the whole thing with Vito and Mussolini and Carmine?
Well, Vito got deported to Italy to avoid the getting pinched, and he got close with Mussolini at the time. So, and Mussolini wanted that guy dead because he was in New York. He was an anti-fascist newspaper, pretty big at the time, and we don't want them dead. And Mussolini wanted them dead, and he asked Vito, and Vito, sent word to New York, back to America, and to Joe Bonanno, and they gave the hit to Carmine, and Carmine Galante killed him. And that was it. The favor's done, and you got another feather in your hat. It makes you stronger in as a killer, and that's how you got stronger under Bonanno.
Yeah. So another feather in his hat. That's a good term for it.
That's what he did.
Yeah. So he eventually went to the. We kind of went backwards on that. I wish we would
Right.
have. But that's all right. With the
Yeah,
whole Vito, so it went Vito, Mussolini, and then Mussolini wanted the reporter dead because this guy was giving him a lot of heat
right,
for he was just totally anti against Mussolini. So
right.
then Carmine carried out the hit.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then another good topic we could talk about is there was a lot of people involved in the Appalachian meeting, and Carmine was one of them, right?
Yeah, Carmine was there. There was a ton of guys there.
Oh yeah.
Some guys got away, and Carmine happened to get away. A lot of guys got caught. He happened to get away.
And they talked about at this meeting was probably drug operations, you think, or
They were going over everything. They were going over the Albert Anastasia thing. They
mhm.
were, they were moving guys around. There was business to be done, uh, uh, favors to be asked, and Vito. I think Vito put that together. It was a bad move, and the law found out about it, and And like history said, who got caught, who didn't get caught. A lot of guys did get away. I mean, I don't know offhand right now on my list, but you know about the guys that got caught, but a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
guys did run
well,
away.
well, the only reason that Carmine was caught was because of that little piece of paper
Yes.
that was in someone's pocket. I think I
Yeah.
can't recall whose pocket it was, but it said
Yeah.
there was going to have a meeting with Carmine, and
Yes.
then boom, they put it together.
Yeah. Yeah. But and they say that, but it was a lot of things that led up to that. I mean, we pinpoint on a few,
Hmm.
but the law itself noticed all those limits. I mean, it's 1957. I mean, a bunch of fucking limousines with guys coming up to a country house. I mean, you got these Keystone cops on the side of the road drinking popsicles, eating popsicles. Saying, what the hell's going on? I mean, come on. I mean, it's so obvious. Yeah,
Yeah, especially in a small town. I mean,
sure.
what else? Where are all these cool cars coming from?
Yeah,
And who
come
the
on.
hell?
Like, it's ridiculous. Guys dressed up in suits, smoking cigars, buck fuck nowhere.
It's not gonna.
It was a bad move. I mean, I just think they just didn't think properly. I mean, you had a lot of smart minds there, but you miss things sometimes, and that was a big miss because that was
Yeah.
bad. That was a bad move to get everybody together like that, go up that single lane highway to get there.
Do you think they had more meetings like that just never were busted?
There was always, I don't know if they were as big as that, but it was always meetings. There was
Yeah,
always meetings when some big trouble
right.
came in, or when you're moving, if you it was a junk deal going down, or something big that was needed, or they try to move a boss or underboss, or some kind of conspiracy or some kind of big argument. There was or they're breaking some territory up because who wanted Vegas and who was there already. There's a lot of things going on, that they don't talk about because they're not publicized yet because they get pinched on it or somebody rat about it. But there's a lot of things going on. Just I don't think there was a big. They did one in Cleveland. They did one in Atlantic City before that. But that Nucky Johnson ran Atlantic City, so it didn't matter. You know what I mean? And I think the one in Cleveland, they had the mayor and all that stuff. The one upstate, they just didn't have the power over there that they thought, and that's why they got pinched on that. But they did this often. They had meetings, maybe 10, 20 guys, maybe in Queens, in New York, in old Manhattan, and they just weren't, caught. And so you don't really know about it. Don't forget, these things, you don't get caught. We don't know shit.
Exactly. I mean, that's
If I
all
was
this.
there, if I was there, you're there, then we would know. But if a million things have happened that no one knows about.
Right.
We only know about what somebody flipped or
They
it's
were caught.
historic because they got arrested and it's publicized. But don't forget, for every one thing that got caught, 100 things that didn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely true. For the
So,
one parts that we do have,
right.
that's what we have in history to know, okay, this guy was involved with
And it's
drugs or
it's 1/10 of history.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
The more they know, 1,000 times less they know than what they do know.
Oh,
So
imagine if they knew it all, huh?
don't forget about it. We'll all be in trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, just with that little bit of history, though, I mean, they're able to, just like yourself, write whole books about it, and I mean, so there was still quite a bit that got caught, but there was a whole hell of a lot that was not, and
A whole
I
lot.
mean,
I mean,
so
I got I was 40 years with a crew, uh, you know, and I don't I can't say nothing about every day working because then people are still alive. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that we did on President Street that no one knows about. You know what I mean? It might come out eventually, but we've been talking about it. But a lot of stuff you just can't talk about. Or you're not, or the public's not going to know.
right, yeah, I mean, that's the issue with it. I mean, people can get in trouble, like if you were to come out and talk about certain things, or you
Well,
might piss some people off, or whatever, some
well,
families, or whatever the
like
case
get
may be.
somebody in trouble that's still alive. The statute of limitations don't run out on certain things. You don't want to implicate nobody in nothing just to write a book and make a couple of dollars. Or
Right.
you might get yourself in trouble. I mean, you don't know. You have to, you have to walk on a thin line to, and use lawyers and see what you can and can't do, so you can bring more information out. that no one knows. It's more fresh. You know, I mean, that's the only reason why. It's a thought. But back to Carmine. No one knew Carmine until he got whacked. You know what I mean? Public doesn't know Carmine unless you come from Bushwick.
And that's about it.
That man was over there running the show. But prior to '79, you would be calling me. We wouldn't be talking about Carmine. Now, I'd be talking about Carmine because I met Carmine after he got out of the can. But
after his 12-year bid.
Yeah, no, most people don't know, about Carmine. That's what I'm saying. Until something happens about these people, that comes in the limelight, these guys are walking murderers and money makers and junk dealers and schizos and whatever you want. But until they get caught, no one knows shit. That's what the problem.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And then you got to do your homework on them. I mean, like I said, I met Carmine twice. I knew he was a badass, but
we can talk about how Carmine, what got him caught for that 12-year bid, and then after that, then we can go into your encounters with him. I think it would be, follow in with the whole story that we're going.
Right.
So he was caught on tape, wasn't it, with talking about drug distribution, and he was talking in code though. I'm talking about meatballs and stuff like that. But they do.
These guys did try to be a little evasive. You know what I mean? It's not that they didn't, but the law gets smarter and smarter and smarter. My father went through a case like that, so we got pinched on a thing. Same thing for tapes and using code. So I know exactly what Carmine did. So, but he got pinched anyway with him and Vito and them all, and he winds up doing. Don't forget, a couple of guys around and got pinched before that, and they did a couple of junk bids, and then Carmine did that 12-year bid with that junk deal.
Did Lucky Luciano have anything to do with that, with his book that he had?
No, Lucky was dead already.
No, okay. So he had a book with names and shit on it or something.
I don't know why. I'm almost sure Lucky was dead because that happened in 62 or something like that. He did 12. Yeah, but what's his name? Was it just before he died? Lucky. Lucky was in Italy.
Okay.
But Lucky didn't have too much power at the time to do anything to stop it. He was trying to earn a living, because he had connections with in Italy too. So.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So I mean, he did 12-year bid and got out.
Yeah, and in that time, he went to Alcatraz. He met John Gotti too, didn't he? And while he was there,
yeah, I heard they crossed paths.
Yes. I think he even asked him if he wanted him to join the Gambino family.
Yeah,
but he said he was already with the Bonannos.
Yeah, yeah, we wrote about but
he was supposed to do 20 years too.
Yeah. He's supposed to, but I don't, John wasn't, as strong then as we know John Gotti. So
oh no, this was back in the '60s then, right?
Yeah, so
before all that went down.
But yes, it did happen. It crossed paths and stuff like that. A lot of things I write is is factual and stuff like that because if you and me not there when John met Carmine,
no.
we got to go with. Some writings about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
My personal belief is that it never happened. It never happened that John asked him to come over because Carmine was fucking. John wasn't a pimple on Carmine's ass at the time.
No, right. He wasn't a boss or nothing like that. Maybe a capo.
Yeah, and Carmine was huge already, man. He was on the boss already. Bonanno.
Right.
Until Bonanno took off, but it's good stories, you know what I mean, and it's possible, when he gets out, then he hits the streets again, and hold on, hits the streets again, and goes right back into selling junk, gets his connections, and he got some good connections, right back there because he had a crew that was in the street that kept the pipeline going, and he walked right back into what he did before.
And this time he wanted leadership when he
Oh yeah,
wanted to be the
yeah,
boss of the Bonannos.
yeah. While he was away, while he was away, while he was away, Bonanno wound up in Arizona. Rusty Rastelli was coming into power, and Carmine, when he got out, said that he was the boss. He should be the boss. He had a big crew.
Hmm.
He didn't care for Rastelli, and they were going at each other since the day he got out. Carmine was recruiting on his end with the guys from Sicily, and the guys there was American crew in him too. Uh, and Rastelli was wound up in jail, was sitting in jail, so his crew was taking heat for him with Carmine because Carmine was trying to make a move to take over everything. He was going to the capos, he was going to the everybody, arguing his point. And and that all led up to him getting killed.
Yeah, and with him and Philip going at it head to head with everything, was there hits or anything that went down with each other? Were they going at each other's crew?
There was a guy or two that died in between. I mean, I think it was Stelly's son got killed, his stepson. I mean, it was a couple bodies here and there. You know, you're not sure if it was over that,
Yeah.
over the move there at the time. I mean,
Well,
because the
and
argument, those capos, a lot of guys still respected Carmine, but they were with um Rastelli. Carmine had a strong crew with those zips, so I don't, there was a lot of fear there too. So it wasn't so easy just to do what the hell you want, and it took a couple of years for it to explode.
yeah, and was Bill Bonanno, Joe Bonanno's son around for any of this?
Yeah, they were there. I mean, they were in Arizona. They were trying to recruit, guys to back up Carmine. Uh, but they lost a lot of their power in New York. You know, I think Carmine was as stronger than Bill Jr. or Bill because he had the connection, he had the zips over there. He was very feared. He did all that work already. He was no joke, Carmine Galante, no joke.
Right.
So, I mean, on his own merits, I don't think he needed too much more help. He needed help from Bonanno to sway some capos that were still were friendly with Joe and them, because that's what you do. You try to sway if you're trying to make a move like that. You try to sway the guys around, Rastelli, and he didn't have too success with that.
They were pretty loyal to Philip
He did pretty well. He had that Messina was very close with
with Philip.
yeah. with- So and they were strong, and don't forget there were two fractions in the same family. It's deep. What I mean? How guys feel and don't feel, even though we're in the same family. I mean, they stay away from each other. Everybody does their own thing, and then when it's just a fan, it's who you want to back up, and that's exactly what went down there because Carmine was making a move and he was getting stronger. And he was saying he's going to make the move because he's he was not afraid and thought he was stronger. Uh, and so when he starts talking like that, people start getting nervous, and I think that's why they finally, said let's got to go.
And he, I guess this will sway into your encounter with him. He went to the Gallo crew when he was ready to make a move on Philip.
Well, actually, there was some talk about it, but actually, we went to him because we had Louis the Syrian had a shipload, a ton of hashish
What is
and
that?
hash.
Oh, okay.
And he had connections to get rid of it, and we had so much, and we had a connection with Carmine, so we went over to Carmine, sent word to Carmine that we needed some help to move it, and so Carmine came down to Pleasant Street to talk to Louis the Syrian. We had a meeting on President Street, and he gave some help to support for some of his guys that he had that could help, and he turned them over to Louis the Syrian, and he got an envelope for it, and and he was helpful in Louis moving the stuff, and then we went back to Joe and Mary's to speak to him the second time.
And then the second encounter, what was that?
That guy was, I think there was some money exchange, and they were talking about. Carmine was talking about making want to be a boss. Stelly was in jail, and bam mounted him. He likes to get some. He's trying to get support from me from the family, which we weren't. We were with the Colombo at the time, so he tried to get some support, but it was done nonchalantly. It wasn't he didn't ask for nothing. He just asked for or what he didn't ask for. He tried to tell his story of why, who, what, when, and how. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
to get some support, but nothing happened out of that because it didn't go as far as that. Rastelli and them made the decision, and they don't have to go outside. So technically, he's not a boss. You know what I mean? So they didn't
Right.
really have to go outside to make a move on him.
So,
And it led up to the what happened.
so did he say anything to you, or give you a nod or a hello or
Oh, of
any?
course. It was very nonchalant. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, he came over. We sat outside. Not outside in the garden, but it was right before outside. There was some tables. We sat there. We spoke. Uh, he asked how my father was, and I said good. And he said sit down, and we had a drink, and we didn't stay that long to eat. Yeah, he's a nice guy. He spoke well. I mean, he was, he didn't act like no lunatic or nothing like that. These guys are calm guys when they sit down and talk in business and in a relaxed atmosphere. Unless you're a real gingerilla and you speak like "Rah, rah, 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 rah," then that's just your natural way of speaking. Doesn't mean you're being nasty and nothing like that. Because a lot of guys have that mannerisms, and that's the way they are. Even when they're not being you know, nasty or something like that. So Carmine was pretty calm. I mean, he was calm and respectful. Louis the Syrian spoke to him well. So uh, I didn't do much talking because we went to bring an envelope. I sat down, had a drink, and this just how's dad and stuff like that because I know Ricky from President Street and. And like he spoke a little with Louis the Syrian about that situation with Rastelli, and he wanted his envelope and left. That's it. You
Yeah.
know, you know,
No,
and,
I
and
mean that's. Oh, go ahead.
I mean that's pretty much we didn't speak to him after that because we got the connections. We need to speak to him no more. And if and in the future things happen, we had the connect he gave us, so
Hmm.
we didn't have to speak to him no more.
Yeah. So eventually, a little later after that, the whole hit goes down on Carmine, right?
I say about 2 3 years. I
Two,
think
3 years.
so.
So
I think
during that
yeah.
time, where you guys, you and the Gallo crew, were you guys seeing this go down with him? Like, was he him and Philip?
I tell you the truth, it was some rumbling, but no, we didn't, no, they didn't. I mean, Bonanno, these guys didn't give no word, you know, tell us, with a loudspeaker that they got planning killing Carmine. It don't happen that way. Uh,
Right.
uh, Joe Messina and them, they put together the plan and they do what they had to do. They know, the captain knows, the crew know who went to go do it. Um, uh, Maybe a few other guys are privy to it. We weren't. We weren't that close to with the bullhorn to come and tell us.
So Joe Messina and Philip were the guys behind it. Then you would
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Rastelli gave the orders, and Messina took care of it. Put the crew together.
And I think the crew's names. If I'm gonna see if I can say them right.
You do better than me, man, because I can't remember.
Santo Glordiano, Glordiano,
Close. Yeah.
Russell Mahoro,
No, not close. I can find it in the book.
Philip Giancone, Hot
Giacone? Yeah,
Giacone, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and JB Indicanto were
Indicato.
yeah, so there were
Yeah.
4 of them then.
Yes.
Okay.
You're better than
And
me.
2 of them were from Sicily, right? They were considered they called them Zips.
No. The
No, they
Zips
were all
yeah, they were all American guys on that end.
but
Uh,
Carmine's 2 bodyguards,
Carmine's two bodyguards were from the other side.
and they split, right? They were supposed to be guarding him.
Well,
Well, I kinda
this,
walk us through the what
yeah,
happened, I suppose,
well,
like, where he was at.
that day on the hit, it goes down that, come at a meeting. They went in the backyard. He lit a cigarette. They were eating while his cousin was there, the owner of the place, his two bodyguards. But it was prearranged already that I think his cousin walked away from the table, said he had agita and walked away
Yeah.
at one point, and one of the bodyguards walked away. And the hit team came in and I think came in shooting, yelling at the owner's son because he was there, and people screaming, and they just went back there and blew them away. They killed him and 2 other guys.
I think
Uh,
one was
one,
Carmine's brother, the owner.
no, I think it was his cousin.
Yeah. Some
Cousin,
family member, yeah.
yeah. And his bodyguard, one of the bodyguards, stood there and shot him too. After he shot him, yeah,
Shit. So, I
yeah.
mean,
They
he had
already got to. They got to. Messina got to his bodyguards,
mm,
and
yeah.
said, "You're gonna go with them because they were strong. Messina was stronger. They were bigger crews and a lot more guys. So they probably got to them and said, either you walk or you go. You know what I mean? With him. And that's why one took a walk." And the other one shot him after he got shot. You know what I mean? Because he's stuck now. Uh, so, and that's how they killed him, and it's over now.
And he had the cigar in his mouth, that famous picture, yeah, they
Yeah,
have of him. And that's insane. How the hell he had to like bite down on it or something? Because how the hell do you fall
well,
back like that, you know?
they say that they say sometimes that when you get shot, you cramp up, and you're in a position. The way he fell, it could have stuck it in his mouth. I don't believe they stuck it in his mouth. I don't believe that at all. I believe it just happened to be, a good shot. And
Hmm.
you fall backwards, you got it in your mouth, you clinch. I don't know. We'll know when we get shot or something like that if we clinch or not. Or something happens.
Yeah, and then you'll know. Oh, that's how that. So that
You
this
do
is what
tighten up
happened.
when you get hurt. I mean, I don't know if you notice.
Yeah,
When you hurt,
he
so you stick your toe. You tighten up. So I could really see him just falling over. That
right.
happened. It just happened to be, a great shot.
Yeah. So after he had died, what did that look like for the family? Because he was, what was he then? What was he even considered? Was he wasn't an underboss no more, was he,
Oh,
or
he was a capo.
just a capo at
He
the
was a
time?
capo. Yeah, a strong one. That thought he should be the boss. Nothing. You take the Messina and those guys took over. The imports and the street guys who were in that crew because it was they just fall right over with the Messina. Nobody went to guns and the battle and like that. Carmine's gone. You know, there was a lot of interaction already, so everybody knew who everybody was and stuff like that. So, and Carmine's other main guy, I can't think of his name right now. I think Cantalello or something like that. Yeah, he was running the whole show for Carmine with all the connections like that. He just went right over with Rastelli, and
Hmm.
it was over.
Just
It was
like
over.
that. So
It's like that, yeah.
yeah,
You're not going to go to gun battles with these people, so it's not going to happen.
yeah, no, that's true. So when he died, did anybody get convicted, or was it just alleged people that were involved?
No, I know.
Did anyone testify?
Amato got the bodyguard. Amato got arrested. I think it was 2 guys. Amato did.
Hmm.
Yeah, one of his bodyguards got arrested for that.
And did they even?
And he's still doing life.
Did they got life then?
He got life. Yeah, they got life. So
Wow.
they Yeah, I think two guys got pinched on that, and uh, he got liability, and he's sitting in jail.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Damn. So the operations just kept on going after he was gone.
Yeah, because there was other guys involved. Carmine's the head of it, but he had all those other guys who running the show. I mean, Carmine wasn't running the street. You know, hey, the keys under the thing. I mean, you got a whole. It's a conveyor belt of guys around here, man. He's the boss. He ain't talking to nobody. Unless he's talking to his guys. And they have everything set up. And so Rostelli's guys just went in there and called them in. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay, because Rostelli was the boss. So if he calls you in, even though you were Carmine crew, he's the boss. So there's not really big questions asked.
Right.
The boss calls you in. That's it. And you turn over, all the information. Where's it come from? Canada, Italy, boom. Because these guys, know the whole chain because that's who took care of it.
Right. They were the ones actually doing it. He
It
was.
was it was an easy transition. It was no big deal.
So when you heard about it, when you were back in that era, what was going through your head?
We said, "Wow, Coleman got killed." Guys get killed all the time, man. I don't know. No one gave a fuck, really. I mean, it was just Coleman got killed.
That was it.
Because it don't affect our lives. It didn't, it was a different family. Guys get killed all the time. I mean, we make a big deal of Carmine Galante, but a lot of other guys got killed. So it's in this world, unless he's your guy or you with him, you feel a little different. But I mean, guys get killed every day. I mean, you'll be fucking crying every day if you gave a shit about everybody. You know what I mean? It just don't work that way. I mean,
right. I mean, you guys weren't that close. I mean, you met him twice or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, it was Louis knew him better, the Syrian, but it is what it is. It's part of the deal. We weren't like. It's not that the guys didn't die around us a lot. So. There was always someone in the 70s getting popped and getting killed. So it's just not surprising and stuff like that. I mean, I know he was up there. I mean, maybe that was more the talk that a high level guy like that got killed.
Yeah.
But no one cared he got killed, really. But it was just more position he was in. It's how it happened. It was more of a conversation of, with the bodyguards. That was more of our, conversation about it. Like, oh, Carmine's dead. Fuck him. But how they do that? You know what I mean? He had those two zips with him. They were closed. That's what we more or less spoke about a little bit. You know what I mean?
Why it happened.
Yeah, why or how? With him being strong with the guy with those zips and them turning on him like that. That's what we spoke about more.
What about your father? Was he close with Galante?
He knew Galante. They were casually, but close. No, my father wasn't close with him. Galante's not close with nobody. He's close with his guys, and that's it. When you got a reputation and you do things and people speak, good about you, and then you have interaction. People remember you. My father and him crossed paths a few times, and they made cordially friends. No, I can't say friends, but friends. But and Ricky my father had a good reputation. All you had to say Rick from Southport or President Street. Everybody knew who he was, and how are you? Are you good? What he said to me when I met him? How's Ricky? So, it was good enough to that a good enough rapport for him to ask me that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Louis the Syrian turned around and said, "Is this Frankie, Ricky's son?" And that's how he didn't recognize me. He recognized the name. So that's what.
Yeah. No, that makes sense then. So just kind of distance.
But he was, like I said, twice he came down. He was cool as a cucumber. Come on, he wasn't ranting and raving. He spoke well. I mean, he had a presence about him that was, this guy was a tough guy. You know what I mean? The guy was a killer. He was 69 years old. You know what I mean? About 60. He's late 60s at the time. You're getting older. He looked older, but I thought he carried himself well. I didn't see no, 80, whatever they said, IQ. I didn't see that. This guy, spoke pretty well and stuff like that. So that was my impression of him. In fact, he looked like an old man. Number one, I was young. You know what I mean? I think he was 66 at the time. He looked like he was 137.
He's that old.
He looked like these old guys looked those days, unless we're just young, they looked old, man.
You're right. I remember seeing the.
I was 20, so I was 20.
Yeah, you were.
I was 20, 66. I mean, he looked old, And Vito Genovese, he visually looked like Moses. I thought he was 190 years old. I think the last picture, was he middle 60s? Jesus Christ, man. They looked old, so they give that old impression when you meet them when you're a young guy,
Yeah, no. Do you have
I didn't think he was, out of his mind. I thought he spoke well, calm. That's my impression of him. But more than that, I really didn't. Like I said, we're so busy doing what we're doing. I was with the Gallows and stuff like that, so. We all have all the headaches and all everyday stuff. So, but it was an experience meeting him. After he got killed, it was it was an experience to remember. Yeah. After he get killed, I wouldn't even give a shit. You know what I mean? But because you got killed after that, that's why it becomes more memorable. But
yeah,
he was an interesting guy. I mean,
the
book is written well. We did it. Me and Michael did as much detail we could, and with fact, we try to take a lot of stuff out that we really didn't believe in, because there's so much more you could have wrote, and I think it came out pretty well. I mean,
no, I'm absolutely enjoying it. Yeah, no, I'd recommend it to anybody that loves this mafia stuff. Anybody that liked this interview. I would strongly recommend going and checking Frank's book out about Carmine. Do you have a copy of it on you right now, or?
Yeah, we'll see it.
This is the cover of it right there. There it is. What's the actual name of it? The cigar.
Carmine Galante Mafia Terror, the cigar. Yeah, I mean, I really think I don't like this. I'm not in love with the stuff I write, because when you write it yourself, either you're better in love with it or you're very critical.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very critical, but. I did, then after laying down reading it, I was in Florida on vacation, and I was sitting at the condo, and I had time to read, and I said, wow, it's, it is pretty informative. It was pretty good, I mean, my favorite book is A Line in the Basement, because it's the first thing I did.
Yeah.
And, it was, I knew everything about it. I didn't have to do my homework, because it was what I did, the life I led, I mean? So Line in the Basement to me was my favorite, I mean? It was just less work, less stuff you have to do. And the less work is a good work. But if you want to give somebody a product, you gotta do it. That's why it takes us so long to do a book, because, you gotta do your homework, you gotta.
How long did this one take you?
It took 6 months.
Damn.
That's a long time, trust me, because it's just putting the facts together and doing the homework and trying to weed out the shit that's bullshit, because there's so much bullshit going on. You know that.
Oh yeah.
You listen to everybody says, we have 400 million dead people last month. If killing everybody and stuff like that. So you just put it together and try to come with the best you can.
No, I think you guys did a really good job with it. I enjoyed it. I always love reading Mafia books. So to me, it was another great book that, another good read, another informative read, because if you want to hear more, like from even coming from someone like you that met him and was with him. So, I mean, you can kind of tell what is bullshit, and you try to weed it out as much as you could. And I thought it was pretty informative. I did myself, and, I enjoyed it. And I read it on like the ebooks, and I can have like Siri talk and
Oh,
and
cool.
it'll go. So it's kind of like an Audible book. So I
It is, yeah.
mean, anybody that likes doing that too, anyone listening, you can do that as well. If you don't want to sit here and read a book, but you can listen to it on your headphones, and that's how I always do it too, even if it's not an ebook or a Audible book.
Yes, yes. No, it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, and I just sit there and I just fucking listen to it for a few days. I mean, if you listen to it, yeah, you can get it done in a few days too. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
if you just sit there and listen and like at work, just type in or whatever I'm doing and shit, just take my
Yeah.
notes and stuff.
It's good to listen because there's a lot of names, a lot of people, a lot of characters.
Holy
Some people like that, some people don't like that. But what do you do if that's part of the thing? I mean, I get some people comments and say, "Oh, it was a good book, but there was too many." The fuck you want me to do? They're part of the story. I mean, what are you out of your mind? I just leave them out because you don't want to read extra name. But the guy's
Right.
instrumental in the story. I mean, I don't know what to do sometimes. I get very aggravated sometimes. You know what I mean? With people reading and with opinions. You know what I mean? You don't like the book? Don't like the book. Fuck the book. But,
Fuck the book. No, I
but,
think you
but
have to though.
you put too many people in it, but they were part of the story. I don't understand. I don't understand that. It just drives me crazy.
Well, there's so
I
many
should have left
people.
those. I should give you two names, but the other three people who killed 32 people that did the junk line that was there for 30 years with them. Don't mention them because there's too many names in the book. What do
No,
you
I mean,
want? I say to people, what do you want, man? You
right.
write.
And
I tell you what, you write the book. I tell you
yeah,
what.
good luck.
Write the book. Man, you write the book, man.
with two
You're so much
characters.
smarter than me, so much you know how to write books and what you should leave out and not leave out. You do it yourself, man. I sit home doing it anyway. I mean, I just understand. It's just crazy. You can't keep everybody happy, man.
No, you can't. But I think you did a good job. I like exactly how it was structured. I like that you go into detail about everybody and who they were and why they committed that crime because I want to know. I do. I mean, that's not like it's some fiction story. It's something real. It's history. So
Well,
you need to hear that.
you
I mean,
got to put it in the guy's name, and if he was involved in it, through his career with Carmine, and
yeah,
and it
need,
was a lot of people, and funny thing was, it was a lot of people. It wasn't three people that did
no,
this whole big junk deals and to 40, 50 years and stuff like that. It was a lot of people.
yeah,
And there was other people that we didn't mention because they were there such a short time, but
hmm,
they did a lot of bad things or were very instrumental. But it
yeah.
was short time. We couldn't name everybody, but I don't know. I don't know.
Where can the people find your book? What is your website? I know it, but I always call it something else.
Yeah, mobkennymag.com
Hmm.
is my website, but I'm having trouble with the PayPal on that. So I put it up on eBay. eBay
Okay.
is, I think it's a Gallo Crew on eBay, and it's
Mhm.
there. It's easier. Uh,
Yeah,
and
I always forget to say mag. I always call it mob candy.
yeah, Mob
Uh,
Kenny Mag.
I always forget the mag, but no, I always put it in the description. But when I say it on our
Yeah.
interviews, I notice I always forget to put the mag part.
It's
But
good. The website's good because we have thousands of pictures and stories and some cool stuff on it. But we just can't. Just the PayPal's not working. But we're trying to strain that out. Whatever. But that's why we threw them on there was
eBay,
eBay. So
eBay, yeah,
there's access
it's
to it.
on. It's on. I got mine off of Apple Books on my
Yeah.
iPhone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kennison does that. Kennison has it on Amazon. You can go to
mhm,
Amazon, buy anything, but you
yep.
can't get it signed. At least with mine, if you come to me, the only difference is we sign them. You know,
Oh, okay.
it's the only difference. You don't have to waste your time coming to me. You just go and Amazon and do what you want, man. You know, I just can't sign them then because I don't have access to that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why
And
we sell them at all is to get people if people want things signed. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, and people,
If you buy it on Amazon, what are you going to ship it to me? And ship it to you? It costs more than a book. You know what I mean?
right.
So that's why we order them, and I got them at hand. We put if you want it signed, we have it signed. And
Yeah, some people like to have the book collections and stuff
yes,
on
yeah,
their shelf or whatnot. I just put them on my phone, and
yeah.
hell, I got a bunch of them.
Again, how many can you have? I know, especially what you're doing. I mean, you have I have a ton of books, man. And
Yeah,
they're going in the attic. They're going in the attic. I'll be dead. My kids be throwing them out of the attic. That's what they're gonna do with them.
hell,
Uh,
No, I mean, if you got that many, I mean, they all go there. So that's why I just keep them on my phone. I mean, some people have cool collections that I like that they have, but
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, some people really like this. So I understand why you sell them, and autographing is a whole nother
yeah,
thing too. I like that too, that
yeah.
whole idea of it. But
It is. It's good. I
I
mean,
mean,
I got tons of. I don't put them out because I just put my own stuff out. Whatever I did. The 10, 11 books I've done. Uh, I keep them at hand. So and there's only so much room we have. So
that's true. Well, Frank, I really appreciate you coming on my show again, and I really appreciate the book you wrote because hell, I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I highly recommend it to anybody that wants it. I'll put it in the video link description so you can get easy access. Just click and start reading. But anything else you got, Frank?
I got a book coming out next September called I think it's the Red Hook Boys. All the gangsters come out of Red Hook.
Oh,
And a lot of guys came out there, Irish crews, everybody. So we're doing a book about that right now. It should be out next September.
okay. Well, we'll
Oh,
probably have another interview.
December. Should be
This
out.
okay. Well, after I read that book, then we'll set up another interview.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a book coming out in July called The Machine Gun Madness. I'm doing that myself. No, not Kennington. It's about all the gangsters that, in the early days who came up and start using machine guns, and how they went crazy with that. So that's coming out.
Yeah,
And,
that'd be an interesting one because
it's a small book. It's not one of those fancy big ones. It's going to be a smaller book. It's called Machine Gun Madness. We're doing that. And
with like the Tommy gun is what you're saying.
yeah. It's guys how the Tommy gun came around in the 20s and who started with them, and then all the hits with they're going crazy. And
There's a few.
who the famous guys that used them and stuff like that.
Al Capone, I think.
Old school, yeah, McGurn and those guys.
Maybe one you don't know is like the Kansas City Mafia with Johnny Lazia. I think he was killed by one.
Yeah. I remember the name, but there's a lot of in the early days they were coming out with that Tommy gun and stuff like that. So a friend of mine says good idea. He helped me out. We sat around and we put some guys together that came up with the Tommy gun. They started using Tommy guns in the old days. It's it's a small read, but it's cool. It's like one of those books I put together, like Manhattan Gangsters and Brooklyn Gangsters and Dangerous Danes books I make. It's like that. It's one of those books. And that's it coming out. And then I'm gonna go certification and do nothing.
Well, good. I mean, you gotta enjoy that now.
Yes.
When you're gonna be going to Miami or Florida.
Yeah, I'm going another month from now, a month and a half, and that's it. I'm gonna disappear.
Yeah.
So no one's gonna see me. I'm gonna take some sun and drink and laugh.
Yeah. Meet up with Anthony.
We're going to be there. That's where we're gonna go laugh and have some enjoy ourselves, and that's it going on right now. That's it going on.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. You keep coming on, man. I do. Well, I think we all can come to the conclusion that Carmine was a straight ruthless killer, and in the end it came back to bite him. Please comment any key takeaways that you got from this interview. Please share it with someone that you think will enjoy it. Also, please be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want more interviews like this. I got plenty more, and at the end of this video I'll put a Mafia playlist of all my other Mafia interviews that I've done in the past. Also, if you want to learn more about Carmine Galante and check out Frank's book, I'll be sure to put his book link in the video description. If you want to support me and my clothing brand, I got t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, and sweats, all on my website. I'll be sure to put my clothing brand link in the video description below. One more thing that I'll bring up is my Mafia documentary series that I'm working on. Frank's going to be a part of it. He's a part of the Gallo crew and the Colombo crime family, so that he's in 2 episodes, and there's 11 episodes altogether. I got ex-mobsters, retired police officers, mob experts, and a lot of other people in this. Please watch this trailer to get a better understanding on what my documentary is going to be about. Again, thank you so much for watching. This life is very twisted. You never know when it's your time to go. One day you're putting in work with someone, and the next day they're taking you out.
In our days, it was very quiet. Nobody ever talked about this. Nobody glamorized it. It was all like hush hush.
Not a glamorous life. And again, it's not what you see in Goodfellas. It's not what you see in Casino. Some days you were dead broke. Some days you had $2,000 in your pocket. It wasn't every day. You don't know anything else. You don't know what it is to go wake up 6 o'clock and go to work. Work? What the fuck is that? I wasn't going to work.
Even bosses get murdered in this life.
There was younger guys underneath him, and he wasn't doing the right thing, I guess. He was coming out of the card game, and unfortunately, a lone gunman came up and shot him 5 times.
People who knew me would tell you I like to use the bat a lot. If I had to shoot you, I'd shoot you too. I've done that.
This life requires many mixed personalities. You have to wear many hats in this life to try and survive.
You become 4 or 5 different people all at once. And you got to go home and be a dad and a husband. You got to go to work and do your job. You got to be out in the street and be a gangster.
The Bonanno family is called the Bonanno family because of my grandfather, Joe Bonanno.
That life there is done. Today you have to be legitimate today.
But you got to be an idiot to want to be a hooligan today. Jail time's now like 100 years for doing nothing.
Yeah, you'll be dead, in prison for life, or in the witness protection program.
I don't know anybody. Now, when Mafia turned their back on me, I know everybody.
There was the big flip of the Gambino underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Here he is signing autographs in a restaurant on Mulberry Street. And we're supposed to be a secret organization.
He was a very, very, very violent guy. No question about it.
Albert Anastasia, he was a Brooklyn guy. He was probably the biggest killer in the history of the mob.
Michael Francis, his father, Sonny, was a really tough guy. But he really raised his son right.
If you want to see a gangster, that's Sonny Francis. And John Sr. don't compliment anybody.
This is a documentary series about the American Mafia. It includes 11 different crime families. Each episode is about a different one. The crime families include the Gambino, Genovese, Bonanno, Colombo, Lucchese, the Gallo crew, Chicago outfit, the Philadelphia Mafia, the Patriarca, the Trafficante crime family, and the Jewish Mafia. Please subscribe to my channel to watch each episode as they come out.